The silence came first, a pregnant pause that stretched across continents, across screens in every language, in every home. Then, without warning, the sky fractured. Quantum phase warships materialized above Earth's major cities, massive obsidian structures that defied every known law of physics. In New York, the ships cast shadows that swallowed entire city blocks. Tokyo's skyline disappeared beneath kilometer-long vessels that hummed with an energy beyond human comprehension. The ships didn't just arrive. They manifested, as if reality itself was being rewritten. Senior Archon Krelvax watched through the primary viewing membrane of the command vessel Void's embrace. His 6 neural-linked eyes, each a complex fractal of biomechanical sensors, analyzed the planet below with clinical detachment. Humanity looked exactly as the preliminary reports had suggested: primitive, fractured, technologically infantile. Initiating first contact protocol, he mandated to his bridge crew, each member a genetically optimized extension of the Zornak Imperial system. Broadcast the surrender directive on all electromagnetic and quantum communication bands. The message was brutal in its simplicity. Holographic projections simultaneously appeared on every electronic device worldwide. Smartphones, televisions, billboards, digital infrastructure. The image was a triptych of destruction. 3 previously conquered worlds reduced to smoking, airless rocks. Entire civilizations erased. Krelvax's voice, translated instantaneously into every human language, carried the weight of 1,000 conquered civilizations. Inhabitants of Earth, your civilization has been assessed. Your technological capacity is minimal. Your planetary resources are inefficiently managed. The Zornak Galactic hegemony offers one path: immediate and unconditional surrender. Resistance will result in complete planetary elimination. You have 3 standard solar cycles to comply. What the Zornak didn't anticipate was humanity's response. Instead of panic, a different energy surge. In underground hackerspaces, in military command centers, in university research labs, something extraordinary began to happen. The invasion wasn't just a threat. It was a catalyst. In Lagos, a 19-year-old programmer named Adebayo Okonkwo, who had been developing adaptive network security algorithms, looked at the alien transmission and saw not a threat, but a puzzle waiting to be solved. In Silicon Valley, a team of AI researchers began analyzing the quantum communication signature with a mixture of terror and scientific excitement. Military strategists worldwide, who had long prepared for hypothetical global conflicts, now found their most extreme scenarios suddenly inadequate. General Maria Rodriguez, head of the newly formed Global Defense Coordination Center, began implementing protocols that had been dismissed as science fiction just hours earlier. Social media exploded, not with fear, but with a complex cocktail of defiance, curiosity, and an almost manic determination. Hashtags in 100 languages began trending. Hashtag wear not alone. Hashtag humanity stands. Hashtag resistance is not futile. The Zornak had expected submission. They had prepared for terror. They had not prepared for humanity's most dangerous quality: an ability to transform a seemingly hopeless situation into an opportunity for unprecedented unity and innovation. Senior Archon Krelvax, reviewing the initial response data, felt the first subtle tremor of an emotion his species had not experienced in millennia: uncertainty. The invasion had begun, but nothing, absolutely nothing, would go according to plan. The war room of the Global Defense Coordination Center buzzed with an energy that was equal parts terror and electric possibility. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood at the center, her fingers dancing across holographic displays that flickered with alien communication signatures. She wasn't a traditional military leader, a quantum physicist with a reputation for radical thinking. Elena had spent years developing theoretical models of adaptive communication networks that most of her colleagues had dismissed as academic fantasy. Now those fantasies were humanity's best hope. "We're not dealing with a traditional invasion," she declared, her voice cutting through the background noise of 100 simultaneous conversations. This is a systemic assault designed to break our communication infrastructure. Beside her, Jack Chen, a former black hat hacker turned top-tier cybersecurity expert, was already dismantling the alien transmission protocols. His fingers moved with a musician's precision, each keystroke revealing another layer of the quantum communication network. "It's brilliant," Jack muttered, a mix of professional admiration and total defiance. They've created a communication network that adapts in real time. But every system has a weakness. Thousands of miles away in Lagos, Adebayo Okonkwo was proving just how true that statement was. The 19-year-old programmer had been analyzing the alien transmission patterns since the first moment of contact. What others saw as an incomprehensible technological marvel, he saw as an intricate puzzle waiting to be solved. Using a custom-built quantum decryption rig cobbled together from salvaged university equipment and his own ingenious modifications, Adebayo discovered something extraordinary. The alien communication network, for all its advanced technology, had a fundamental vulnerability. It relied on a predictive algorithm that assumed linear response patterns. Humanity was anything but linear. In research facilities, military bases, and makeshift communication centers around the world, a remarkable collaboration began to take shape. Traditional barriers of nationality, language, and disciplinary expertise melted away. A researcher in Tokyo shared encryption insights with a team in Sao Paulo. Military strategists in Washington collaborated with network engineers in Mumbai. The Zornak had anticipated a fractured response. They had conquest protocols for societies divided by internal conflicts, for civilizations that would collapse under the weight of fear. They had not anticipated this. A global immune response, with every sector of human society working as a single adaptive organism. Dr. Rodriguez's team developed the first breakthrough by introducing controlled chaos into the alien communication network, using principles borrowed from everything from jazz improvisation to martial arts strategy. They began to create interference patterns that the Zornak computational systems couldn't predict. "It's like we're playing a different game entirely," Jack explained, pulling up a visualization that looked more like an abstract painting than a military strategy. "They're playing chess. We're playing something they can't even comprehend." The first real test came unexpectedly. A Zornak communication probe attempted to infiltrate a global satellite network. What should have been a simple data extraction turned into a cascading failure of alien systems. Adebayo's algorithm, combined with Dr. Rodriguez's quantum interference patterns and Jack's adaptive security protocols, didn't just block the invasion. They turned the alien technology against itself, creating a feedback loop that sent critical information back to human analysis teams. The Zornak had believed they were conducting a soft invasion. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to transform a potential extinction event into an opportunity for unprecedented innovation. The resistance had begun, and it was nothing like anyone had expected. The underground research facility beneath the Atacama Desert looked nothing like a traditional military installation. Holographic displays danced with impossible algorithms, while teams of researchers from 12 different countries worked in a state of synchronous chaos. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's adaptive AI system, nicknamed ARIA, Adaptive Responsive Intelligence Algorithm, was unlike anything the scientific world had ever seen. What began as a theoretical project in quantum communication had transformed into humanity's most potent weapon against the Zornak invasion. "It's learning faster than we can track," whispered Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, a neural network specialist who had flown in from Tokyo. His fingers hovered over a display showing ARIA's computational growth. The AI was consuming alien communication patterns, military strategies, and technological signatures at an exponential rate. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A team of indie game developers, led by Maria Santos, had been recruited to help solve a critical problem. Their expertise in creating complex, adaptive multiplayer game algorithms became the key to understanding the alien computational logic. "Think of it like the ultimate strategy game," Maria explained, her eyes bright with a combination of terror and excitement. "Except the stakes are literally our entire civilization." Their contribution was revolutionary. By applying game theory principles to the alien communication network, they discovered subtle patterns that the Zornak computational systems had never anticipated. Each interaction became a multi-dimensional chess match, with ARIA learning and adapting faster than the alien technology could respond. Adebayo Okonkwo's earlier work on quantum decryption found its ultimate expression here. The algorithm he had developed in Lagos now formed the core of ARIA's learning matrix. What the Zornak saw as a linear communication network, humans were transforming into a living, breathing computational organism. The first major test came unexpectedly. A Zornak technological assault aimed at disrupting global communication networks suddenly found itself trapped in a maze of its own making. ARIA didn't just defend. It counterattacked, using the alien's own communication infrastructure against itself. Jack Chen watched in awe as the system worked. "It's like we've created an immune system for our entire planetary network," he muttered, tracking the cascading computational responses. Deep in the Zornak command ship, Senior Archon Krelvax experienced something his species had not felt in millennia: genuine confusion. The human technological response defied every known computational model. Their systems didn't just resist. They transformed, adapted, evolved in real time. What made ARIA truly unique was its fundamental design. Unlike traditional AI systems, it incorporated principles from diverse human disciplines. Martial arts strategies influenced its defensive protocols. Jazz improvisation shaped its adaptive responses. Ecological system models informed its predictive capabilities. The most shocking moment came during a simulated conflict scenario. ARIA began to generate solutions that were less about direct confrontation and more about systemic transformation. It didn't just seek to defeat the alien technology. It sought to understand it, to find potential points of communication, of mutual understanding. The Zornak had believed they were fighting a technological war. They were about to learn that humanity's true strength lay not in destruction, but in an unprecedented capacity for adaptive, creative problem-solving. Technological improvisation wasn't just a strategy. It was becoming humanity's most potent evolutionary advantage. The battle for humanity's survival would be won in the mind long before it was won in the stars. Dr. Amara Okonkwo, Adebayo's older sister and a renowned cultural anthropologist, stood before a wall of screens in the Global Psychological Warfare Command Center. Unlike traditional military strategists, her team was composed of linguists, artists, game designers, therapists, and communication experts from every corner of the globe. The Zornak aren't just technologically advanced, she explained to a room of military and intelligence leaders. They're psychologically rigid. Their entire civilization is built on a hierarchical system that cannot comprehend true adaptability. Their secret weapon was complexity itself. While the alien empire operated on predictable computational models, humanity would weaponize its most chaotic trait: unpredictability. The first phase began with seemingly innocuous cultural interventions. Social media campaigns, carefully crafted holographic broadcasts, and strategically designed communication networks started to penetrate the Zornak's information systems. Each message was a precisely calculated psychological payload. Artists became frontline warriors. A collective of digital creators from Buenos Aires developed holographic narratives that subtly undermined the Zornak's belief in their own invincibility. Graphic designers in Seoul created visual languages that introduced cognitive dissonance into alien communication protocols. Musicians in Dakar composed algorithmic sound patterns that disrupted the aliens' neural link communication networks. Jack Chen's team discovered a fundamental vulnerability in the Zornak's communication infrastructure. Their hierarchical system meant that information flow was strictly controlled, creating massive blind spots in their understanding of dynamic, non-linear societies. They can't process randomness, Jack explained, pulling up complex network diagrams. Their entire civilization is built on predetermined paths. We're going to give them something they've never encountered: absolute, beautiful chaos. The breakthrough came from an unexpected collaboration. Dr. Amara Okonkwo worked with a team of game theorists, linguistics experts, and quantum communication specialists to develop what they called narrative weapons, communication strategies designed to systematically deconstruct the Zornak's psychological foundations. They began broadcasting carefully constructed narratives directly into the alien communication networks. Each message was a multilayered psychological operation. Historical accounts of civilizations that had overcome seemingly insurmountable odds. Algorithmic art that introduced impossible geometric patterns. Communication sequences that defied the Zornak's understanding of linear information transfer. Within the Zornak command ship, something unprecedented began to happen. The rigid computational systems started to experience what could only be described as cognitive stress. Information that should have been easily processed became increasingly difficult to categorize, to understand. Senior Archon Krelvax watched in growing alarm as reports flooded in. Zornak military units began experiencing unprecedented communication disruptions. Some units started to question fundamental directives, a concept entirely foreign to their hierarchical system. The most shocking development came when entire Zornak communication clusters began to fragment. Their supposedly unified neural networks showed signs of what could only be described as psychological breakdown. Humanity wasn't just resisting. They were rewriting the very concept of conflict. The psychological war had begun, and the battlefield was consciousness itself. The Battle of Proxima Centauri would be remembered as the moment humanity redefined interstellar conflict. Captain Aisha Nyong'o stood on the bridge of the RSS Defiance, humanity's first quantum-adaptive combat vessel. Unlike traditional warships, the Defiance was a living system. Its hull, weapons, and navigation were fundamentally integrated with AI, the adaptive AI that had become humanity's most potent technological weapon. Incoming Zornak Battle Group, announced Lieutenant Marcus Rodriguez, his fingers dancing across holographic targeting systems that seemed to breathe and pulse with living intelligence. 5 primary vessels, 12 support craft. Quantum signature indicates maximum offensive configuration. The Zornak fleet approached with the cold, calculated precision that had conquered 1,000 civilizations. Their ships were obsidian monoliths of technological perfection, each vessel a product of millennia of uninterrupted military development. They expected submission. They expected terror. They were about to learn the true meaning of human unpredictability. Captain Nyong'o's strategy defied every known principle of space combat, where traditional military doctrine called for direct engagement or defensive positioning. She chose something entirely different. The Defiance didn't just move, it danced. Araya transformed the ship's defensive systems into an adaptive, almost organic response mechanism. Incoming plasma torpedoes would be met not with simple energy shields, but with quantum phase manipulations that would literally redirect the energy. Each hit became an opportunity for technological learning, for system improvement. They're trying to establish a predictive targeting matrix. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's voice came through the communication systems. She was monitoring the battle from the Atacama Desert Research Facility, her team creating real-time computational support. Don't just avoid their attacks. Let them hit us. It sounded like suicide. But nothing about this battle would follow traditional logic. The first Zornak volley struck the Defiance's port side. Instead of damage, the ship seemed to absorb the energy, its hull momentarily rippling like liquid metal. Araya was doing more than defending. It was learning, adapting, transforming the very nature of the ship's technological infrastructure. Aboard the Zornak command vessel, Senior Archon Krelvax watched in growing horror. The human vessel wasn't just surviving. It was evolving with each attack. Computational models failed. Tactical predictions collapsed. Captain Nyong'o's voice was calm, almost poetic. "We're not fighting their war," she told her crew. "We're creating an entirely new paradigm of conflict." The battle became a three-dimensional chess match that transcended traditional understanding. The Defiance didn't just avoid attacks. It anticipated them, redirected them, used them as computational fuel for increasingly complex defensive and offensive strategies. Adebayo Okonkwo's quantum decryption algorithms, Jack Chen's adaptive network protocols, Dr. Rodriguez's AI learning systems, they all converged in this moment. The ship was more than a weapon. It was a living demonstration of humanity's most profound capabilities. When the engagement ended, the Zornak had lost 8 vessels. The Defiance remained not just intact, but fundamentally transformed. The universe was watching, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Zornak galactic hegemony had never known defeat, until now. Deep within the quantum-shielded chambers of their primary command worldship, the High Council descended into chaos. Senior Archon Krelvac stood at the center of a maelstrom of political destruction, watching millennia of galactic dominance crumble in real time. "The computational models are failing," announced Archon Zeltax, her neural interfaces flickering with unprecedented uncertainty. "Our entire strategic infrastructure cannot process the human response." What had begun as a routine conquest had transformed into an existential threat to the Zornak civilization. The Battle of Proxima Centauri was more than a military defeat. It was a fundamental breakdown of everything the species understood about technological superiority and galactic hierarchy. Fracture lines appeared within the once monolithic Zornak leadership. Some advocated for total planetary destruction, a scorched earth approach that would eliminate the human threat permanently. Others, increasingly influenced by the psychological warfare campaigns, began to see humanity as something entirely unprecedented. "We are witnessing the first true evolutionary challenge to our civilization," argued Archon Renlock, a maverick within the typically uniform leadership structure. "These humans are not just a species to be conquered. They are a fundamental reset of galactic understanding." The psychological warfare executed by Dr. Amara Okonkwo's team had penetrated deeper than anyone could have anticipated. Zornak communication networks began experiencing unprecedented anomalies. Fragments of human culture, art, and philosophical concepts that introduced complex cognitive dissonance into their rigid systems. Military units started to fragment. Some began sending encrypted communications to human networks, not as surrender, but as a desperate attempt to understand. The Zornak had never encountered a species that fought not just with technology, but with pure, unbridled creativity. Jack Chen and Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched the unfolding breakdown through a complex web of quantum-encrypted monitoring systems. Araya, their adaptive AI, was processing the alien communication disruptions faster than human analysts could comprehend. "They're breaking down," Jack muttered, watching holographic displays that looked more like abstract art than traditional military intelligence. "Their entire civilization is built on a computational model that cannot process randomness." The most shocking development came from an unexpected source. A group of Zornak scientific units began actively seeking communication with human research teams. They weren't surrendering. They were attempting to understand a form of intelligence that defied their entire evolutionary experience. Senior Archon Krelvax found himself in a position no Zornak leader had ever experienced: genuine uncertainty. The invasion that was meant to be a simple territorial expansion had become an existential crisis for an entire civilization. "We assumed technological superiority meant evolutionary superiority," Krelvac said to his remaining council members. "Humanity is proving that adaptation is the true measure of survival." Entire sectors of Zornak space began to destabilize. Communication networks collapsed. Military units lost cohesion. The once invincible galactic hegemony was unraveling from within, attacked by an enemy that didn't just fight, but fundamentally reimagined the very concept of conflict. Humanity had done more than resist an invasion. They had challenged the entire fundamental understanding of civilizational development. The real war was just beginning. The final battle would not be fought with conventional weapons. It would be a war of consciousness, of fundamental understanding. Humanity's strike force assembled in a way no military in history had ever conceived. Captain Aisha Nyong'o commanded the RSS Defiance, now less a ship and more a living neural network. Beside her, a team that defied every traditional military structure. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the quantum physicist. Jack Chen, the cybersecurity genius. Dr. Amara Okonkwo, the cultural strategist. Adebayo Okonkwo, the young programmer who had first cracked the alien communication codes. They were humanity's most unconventional weapon. The Zornak had gathered their remaining fleet, a massive convergence of technological might that had conquered thousands of civilizations. Senior Archon Krelvax positioned his command vessel at the center, surrounded by ships that represented millennia of uninterrupted technological development. "This is not just a battle," Dr. Rodriguez explained to the team, her fingers dancing across quantum communication interfaces. "This is a complete systemic intervention." AI, the adaptive AI that had become humanity's most potent weapon, had evolved beyond any computational model. It wasn't just a system of attack and defense. It was a living, breathing representation of human potential, capable of learning, adapting, transforming in milliseconds. The confrontation began not with weapons, but with information. Waves of carefully constructed communication sequences began to flood the Zornak networks. Each transmission was a multilayered psychological and technological payload. Algorithmic art that introduced impossible geometric patterns, historical narratives that challenged the aliens' understanding of civilizational development, quantum encrypted messages that simultaneously existed in multiple states of meaning. Captain Nyong'o's strategy was revolutionary. The Defiance didn't just engage, it became a living computational organism that infected the alien fleet's communication infrastructure. "We're not destroying them," she told her crew. "We're giving them a choice to understand." Aboard the Zornak command vessel, Senior Archon Krelvax experienced something unprecedented. The human assault wasn't just technological, it was philosophical, psychological, a complete reimagining of conflict itself. AI began to generate communication sequences that were more than just attacks. They were invitations to understanding. Complex mathematical models that showed alternative paths of civilizational development. Artistic representations that challenged the very concept of hierarchical thinking. The Zornak fleet began to fragment, not through physical destruction, but through a complete breakdown of their computational and philosophical infrastructure. Some ships began to broadcast messages of curiosity. Others initiated communication protocols that suggested surrender, but something more nuanced, a desire to understand. Adebayo Okonkwo's quantum decryption algorithms, combined with Dr. Amara Okonkwo's cultural communication strategies, created a weapon more powerful than any physical armament: empathy as a strategic tool. When the confrontation ended, no traditional battle metrics could describe the outcome. The Zornak fleet was not destroyed. It was transformed. Humanity had done more than win a war. They had redefined the very concept of conflict. The universe watched, and everything changed. 5 years after the confrontation, Earth was unrecognizable. The Global Coordination Center, once a military installation, had transformed into the most advanced diplomatic and technological research facility in known space. Where national borders had once divided humanity, a new understanding of collective potential had emerged. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display showing the intricate web of communication networks that now connected Earth with fragments of the former Zornak civilization. What had begun as a fight for survival had become something far more profound. A complete reimagining of interstellar relations. Not all of the Zornak had accepted the transformation. Some retreated to the far edges of known space, clinging to their old hierarchical structures. Others became something entirely new, hybrid communities that blended Zornak technological precision with human adaptive thinking. Adebayo Okonkwo, now lead director of interstellar communication research, was working on something unprecedented. The quantum communication networks he was developing weren't just technological marvels. They were living systems that could adapt, learn, and grow. "We're not just creating communication tools," he explained during a global broadcast. "We're developing a new language of understanding that transcends species, technology, and previous limitations." Captain Aisha Nyong'o had taken a different path. She led an exploration initiative that was rewriting the rules of first contact. Each mission was less about conquest and more about mutual understanding, a collaborative approach that emphasized shared discovery over territorial expansion. The most remarkable transformation happened within human society itself. The global unity forged during the conflict didn't dissolve with the threats passing. Educational systems were completely redesigned, emphasizing adaptive thinking, cross-cultural collaboration, and a holistic understanding of human potential. Dr. Amara Okonkwo's work in cultural psychology became a cornerstone of this new approach. Her research showed how the conflict had fundamentally altered human consciousness, breaking down long-standing barriers of nationality, ideology, and limited thinking. Jack Chen, now leading a global cybersecurity and adaptive technology initiative, reflected on the journey. "We didn't just survive," he often said. "We evolved." Senior Arshan Krelvax, once humanity's most feared enemy, had become something of a diplomatic anomaly. Stripped of his previous hierarchical position, he now worked alongside human researchers, offering insights into Zornak technological and cultural systems. Their first collaborative project was revolutionary, a comprehensive study of adaptive intelligence that combined human creativity with Zornak computational precision. The quantum adaptive AI system ARIA had evolved beyond its original purpose. No longer just a defensive tool, it had become a bridge between species, a living testament to the power of collaborative intelligence. During a commemorative ceremony marking the 5th anniversary of the confrontation, a holographic message was broadcast across multiple communication networks, a message that captured the essence of humanity's transformation. "We did not conquer. We understood. We did not destroy. We created. We are not defined by our ability to fight, but by our capacity to grow." The stars themselves seemed to listen. Humanity had become something more than a species. They had become a bridge between what was and what could be.